What's good, YouTube? My name is Days and I am back. Definitely been a minute, but at this point it's nothing really new for this channel. Anyway, today I kind of want to talk about FD for a bit. It's a mechanic that I think is really good in this game that a ton of people don't really use properly or just could be using better, right? So hopefully in this video I can like shed some more general knowledge about the mechanic and where you could be using it better. So what is FD? FD, or Faultless Defense, is a defensive mechanic that uses your meter in exchange for negating chip damage, stopping your risk gauge from going up, and increasing the pushback of anything that you block while it's up. Simple, right? You probably knew that already, but just for prudence's sake, there's a quick reminder. Before talking about any of the specifics of FD, it's important to note that standing and crouch blocking in this game have different pushbacks on their own, with or without FD. So crouching guard in this game has less pushback, and standing block has more pushback. Right, generally. This remains the same even if you FD, right? So if you were to block a sequence like this from Kai, right, and you were to crouch block all of this, every hit connects, Dire Clear makes contact, right? But if you stand up and he does this exact same thing, Dire Clear whiffs, right? So it's not huge, but there is a difference between standing and crouching. This is important because it's actually essential that you know what you're FDing and you don't just hold FD, right? You want to FD specific things. If you hold FD, right, you're going to lose games. If we take nothing else away from this video, I want you to keep in mind that holding FD is the worst thing that you can do, right? Not only is this mechanic tied to your meter, anything that you FD has its frame advantage increased by 2. Right, so if you were to block something that was -2 on block, it becomes neutral on block because you FD'd it, right? So that can make it harder for you, the defenders, to actually get out of offense. The rate at which FD actually decreases is pretty quick too, so if you look at this here, and I just hold FD, like it's going down fairly quickly. It's pretty quick. Not like zooming down, but like, yeah, it's a pretty quick rate, right? The difference between having 50 meter and no meter is like pretty big in this game. So like, even when you block something too, right? Like if Kai does this sequence from earlier, right, and you FD these, like your meter, like a chunk disappears every time you FD something, right? You want to hold on to your meter and manage it. So all in all, FD has a ton of uses, some more obvious and some on the more esoteric side, and it can vary even more between matchups, right? It's honestly a ton of things that you can do with this mechanic, right? But in this video, I'm going to go over like some general places that you can look to use FD that will work in a ton of contests and matchups in the game. So first up we have safe jumps, right? So FDing safe jumps in most cases ensures that your opponent will be out of throw and close slash range, which can like really limit what they can do to you after that safe jump, right? Their offensive structure changes a lot just because of FDing that one normal, right? So for example, let's pretend that this is a safe jump because I actually have no idea what like solo safe jumps look like or like setups. Let's do it like this. Right, so if you just block this regularly without FD, he's in range of close slash, like +3 on block, really scary, like strike throw, right? Soul's gonna like get his win condition started. But if you FD this, he is out of like throw range and he's out of close slash range, right? So if he wants to do either of those, he has to dash back in, which can give you, the defender, a chance to do something, right? Whether you like want to mash throw here or like back dash or something like that, or like try to jump away, right? If your character has a jump that's good enough to do that, then like you can like try to make an escape because of FD. Right, the best thing about FD as a mechanic is that your opponent cannot autopilot when you use it correctly, right? If you're FDing in the right spots, your opponent has to be looking at how you're defending them, right? Because if they're not paying attention or like accounting for the fact that you're FDing and making this space with your meter, then they're going to whiff something or like leave themselves open to getting hit, right? So this works very well in strike throw scenarios too, because in the same scenario here, it so like goes for the safe jump into throw, like this. Right, and you block it regularly. Or actually, let's actually make her stand up so I can like time this correctly. Oh my god, this has so much blocks on. You can tell I don't play Soul. Okay, that's pretty good. So if you block this, he's pretty close. The throw comes out pretty fast. Right, but if you FD this and he doesn't pay attention and he just does the same timing, he's going to whiff and you get to hit him, right? So this happens in a ton of contests in the game. This happens versus Nago, right? This happens versus Kai. Right? Honestly, most characters that like go for this style like strike throw have to be really wary of this. Characters like Ino, for example, or Milia, who don't run strike throw that much, is kind of like not the thing you want to be looking for. Like to negate throw, but like getting all characters out of close slash range after a stage jump is pretty good, to be honest, because like most of the options like on offense in this game come from close slash. You can do the most off of this number. It has the most Gatlings in the game, like close slash 6P for example is a thing, close slash sweep is a thing. You can basically cancel into like almost anything from close slash. So this is where most characters like get their offense started, right? So denying them this off a safe jump scenario is really good. And honestly, this same scenario applies on general wake ups as well, right? Because like Soul could just knock you down regularly and do close slash, right? And then he's plus, and you have to like be wary of like what he's going to do to you afterwards. But like FDing this means that he can't really easily get another one, right? Because with dash momentum actually affects like how close you are after a move in this game. Some characters take advantage of it more than others, right? But if Soul dashes in really deep after this and does close slash, he can get another close slash. Right, he's still in range to do another one. But if you FD this, he will never get another one. He can't get two. He has to move back in, right? So FD is really good just, you know, on general wake ups, especially if you don't know what your opponent likes to do, right? If you're playing like in a tournament set or something like that, FDing on wake up and seeing like how they actually respond to that initial FD can give you a ton of information. Alright, and next we have jabs and self-cancelable normals. So I think Leo is probably one of the best examples of this. Technically, this is not a self-cancelable normal, but he does have the reverse beat on his heavy and slash normals. Right, you can just kind of do this all day. Right, there's really no limit on how many times he can cancel into this move. So the thing about this string is on the defender side, if you sit here and block all of this, right, especially if he has like dash momentum. Oh my god, I don't play this character. Right, and you block all of that, your risk gauge shoots all the way up, right? You have like half risk gauge just from that. And if he chooses to RC off of this and do more offense, right, something like that, then your risk gauge goes up even more, right? So you don't want to block all of these, right? It's not really mix up per se. I mean, it's kind of just like a stagger. But if you sit here like and let him do this and like he throws you and does like back turn into overhead into super, you're gonna lose 70%, right? So you want to avoid that situation entirely, and the best way to do that is using FD, right? If you FD even a couple of these, he can't really get that more off, right? In best case scenario too, the Leo isn't paying attention and they do this and they see that they're getting pushed out and like go into yours, right? And then they whiff. Right, you can easily make him whiff like just by choosing like when to FD or how to FD it, right? Because if you stand FD, he gets pushed back even more. I don't know if I can like actually set this example up correctly. Let's do two. Stand FD. Oh, this is hard. Alright, last try. Okay, whatever, I can't get it. You guys gotta take my word for it. Just gotta take my word for it. But yeah, the best thing that you can do here is make Leo whiff something. He does have like the stance cancel thing, which gives him like a little bit of less recovery, but even then, that shows that he's wary of you FDing or like doing something. If he just does stance, you can like try to jump away from him or something like that, right? So just doing the FD makes it so your opponent has to interact with you. So this same kind of interaction applies for just jabs as well, or like anything that you can self-cancel. So that goes for like melee or 5k stagger, chip 5k stagger. I'm actually going to use Kai for this example, because Kai has like one of the better 2Ps for this, but one of the utilities of 2Ps in this game, or just like jabs in general, is that you can use them to confirm block stun, right? So you can actually see how your opponent is choosing to defend your string, right? You can see if they're like standing up through the entirety of it, if they're FDing or not, or something like that, right? And choose like your next option right afterwards, right? So if Kai just does like a bunch of 2Ps, he actually gets like a bunch, right, if you like regularly guard this, but if you FD even just a couple, he goes like shooting back, right? So the interaction about this here is that because of the like added 2 frames of block stun, right, you do have to be a little bit careful, right? This positioning is not that bad for Kai, even though he goes shooting back, right, because he has like this, for example, right? You have to think about the context of the characters and what it is they can actually do, because normally this gap right here is like a 6 frame gap, right? You can beat this with like 5 frame normals, for example, right? But if he's spaced out, your 5 frames won't reach, so this is like a legitimate thing that he can normally do. But from further away, even if he gets pushed out and you FD'd his 2P, it becomes a 4 frame gap. So if you try to press anything, or like try to do anything, like he's going to catch you, for example, right? So he can do like this and like actually see that you're like FDing, right? And then go, oh, I'm getting pushed out, time to do 6 heavy. Right, and you try to like jump away and he catches you and now he's plus because like you had to block the 6 heavy, for example, or you like tried to hit a button, right? Like, oh, he's getting pushed out, he's gonna whip a 2P, right? Time to swing, and then he catches you, for example, right? So there is interaction, right? And that's the best thing about FD, right? Your goal is to create that space and then pick your next option, right? Or do what your character is good at doing to escape the corner, because every character's like option set, once they create that space with FD, is different, right? So, for example, Amelia has a bunch of things she can do in the air. She can like do capo, she has 2 air dashes, right? Her jump goes pretty high. Chip has 3 double jumps, like Ram has really hard anti-air buttons once she gets into the skies, for example. So you don't always have to swing on your opponent after they whiff something, or thinking that they're going to whiff something because you did FD, for example. But like it is a good idea to like see what your opponent is doing. FD is like a really good and like low commit check to interact with your opponent. And lastly, we have after plus frames. So there are actually a ton of strings in this game where if you FD right after your opponent resets pressure on you, it'll give you a chance to interact. One of my favorite examples, which is why this character is on the screen, is when Ino does a string into 8 stroke and then does 2k 2d, right? Normally the string always connects, but just FDing this 2k right after makes 2d whiff, usually, right? So if she is out of range or like not close enough after this, right, you can always get a punish on her for doing this, right? She has to pay attention to how you block that 2k, right? So the thing about this interaction here is that there's a sort of like RPS to it. So if you FD, that means if you choose to FD, right, that means that you are like trying to defend, right, and you're not mashing. Usually is what that means, right? That if you see your opponent picked FD when you did like empty jump throw or something like that to them, that means they were trying to defend and like push you out, right? So that gives you a little bit of information. So on the opponent side, when they're running their offense and they get the pressure reset, if they do 2k 2d and they see that you FD'd, right, and they actually like pay attention to that kind of stuff, then they'll keep it in mind for next time, right? And if you're FDing too much in this space, right, and they catch on, they'll do something like this, right, and she gets like a mitts up or something like that. So that's basically where the RPS on this kind of thing comes into play. But this works on a ton of characters, right? This works on Kai. Like Kai does like the flip kick, food arc into 2k 2d, and then like you make his 2d whiff as well, right? There's a ton of like pressure reset scenarios in the game where like just FDing right after is a pretty good idea to see where your opponent's like headspace is at. Alright, and that is it. This video was a little bit on the shorter side. I kind of want to keep these concise and to the point. I don't want to like do too many like very long essay type videos, right? Even though that's kind of like the general content that's going to be on this channel. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, you can just like ask me in the comments just like last time, or pull up to the stream. I'll basically be streaming like at least 3 times, 4 times a week or something like that. At least that's the goal, right? So I'll be more than happy to answer. So yeah, peace.